So moving on. We've got, in fact, other things. PvP. The honor cost of unrated gear, the honor cost for upgrades of unrated gear, has been reduced by around 25%, and the conquest cost to upgrade rated gear has been adjusted to spread across the new ranks. That's basically just because they've got different upgrade ranks for conquest gear that have more of a gradation. I believe it was at, do not quote me in this, but I believe it was at 400 rating. Was it 400 rating 6? I forget exactly.
I can't remember.
Something like that anyway. And now it's like every 200 rating and I think 300 or 3 item levels, I think. The other thing was just with that honor, gear though is, hey, by the way, just remove that from the renown bar, please. Please. By the way, also bolstering raging and necrotic affix nerfs. Bolster now has a 20-second duration, where it was permanent.
Oh my god, that's so huge. Jesus Christ.
Matt's exploded.
Because you used to bolster a pack and then wreck your... No, this is the fixed as well, the resetter. All the same, that now means there's counterplay to fucking up a bolster pack. That's incredible. I mean, there was counterplay, but the counterplay was, shit, please, no. Now the counterplay is, we have 20 seconds, we can just wait it out. As opposed to, we have to burn through 500 million health now. Thanks to whoever killed that.
Yep. So there's that. The necrotic wound duration, this might make you happy too, is now 6 seconds down from 9.
Necrotic is not fun.
So
necrotic is now less a problem. Good.
Yeah. I mean, most of the affixes are in fact not fun.
Oh, that's the point of them, sure. Of course.
Yeah. I mean... Mythic Plus would be, in my opinion, and I know this might fly in the face of what some of the M Plus people would think, so maybe I am just coming from this as an absolute, stupid everyman or something. I mean, I'd prefer it if we just got a more advanced seasonal affix that maybe changes at 5, 10, and 15, or maybe at 10 and 15, and 0 affixes other than that, because I think those other affixes are quite boring and homogenizing. To be honest, I can understand how the designers are like, oh yeah, well, it's like the affix version of the enemy design of Doom, where the awesome thing about the Doom enemy design is like you take all those enemies, but you give them to the player in like any number of combinations, and it's insanely multiplicative in terms of the resultant gameplay experience. And that's one of the things that just makes the enemy design in Doom like fucking awesome for its time, and a thing that every game designer should learn very early on. I know they're trying to do that with affixes, but for whatever reason in Doom it's like they're fun enemies to kill in different ways and to deal with in different ways, but in this it's just like you're just kind of getting screwed in a slightly different way each time.
Yeah,
that's there's a little bit of a thought there.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. I actually think I
guess Kiss Curse is what we need more of.
A lot of the World of Warcraft team are actually quite bad at designing gameplay, in the sense that that's Doom's good because that's a lot of natural stuff, because you've got natural things to do. You've got movement, you've got what you're hitting first, you've got a limited toolkit generally speaking, but you can use it in varied in interesting ways, and you've got different considerations going on. These affixes don't do that. These affixes are just don't do this specific thing or you'll get massively punished for it. There are some elements of like playing around it is sometimes fun, but it doesn't come out that well in terms of interacting interestingly with your actual core gameplay. A lot of it's just kind of dumb shit.
Which is the enemies and your character.
Yeah, like bolstering, for example, is a technically interesting challenge, but it's only a technically interesting challenge. What it does is make people not have fun. Which, there is an element to say where maybe if like following that logic, the most fun thing to do would be to play World of Warcraft like Diablo, where you AoE explode everything, but that's not true. So there is a sort of line in the middle to kind of ride there, but I think that a lot of it is so punitive. It feels like someone sat down and went, how do we challenge players in different ways, as opposed to how do we let players have more fun? How do we make players have more fun? At least I think so.
And what I would certainly say to balance that with something a bit more positive, I do think that the seasonal affixes that tend to be Kiss Curses, I think that those are actually in many cases like really, really good designs. I wish that I M plussed in the Nyalotha tier. Of course, I was basically just very quickly raid logging in that tier, but hey, at least I was having fun doing the raid with the crew, and that was a really good experience. But it just seems that it was a really good affix, that tier, that people thought was really interesting.
It was
So-
okay. So I think that one was fun from, and this is a problem I have with World of Warcraft in general as a game and how it's designed, which will come from who they've hired as designers over the years. But I think a lot of World of Warcraft design doesn't come down to what is fun. In the same way, this is going to sound a little bit, I can't remember the word I'm looking for, but a little bit like speaking down on. But you go play Mario 64. That game's fun. That game's fun as hell. Why? Everything you do just feels great. The challenges are simple. They're easy. They're fine enough. But you press the buttons and it's good. World of Warcraft's got a little bit of that in its DNA. But a lot of the design stuff recently, or for the past couple of years, has been very much strategically interesting as a group, compositionally interesting as a group, versus what can this player do to have more fun or do it better, which is one of the problems.
I will come in there and empathize with the WoW designers.
Yeah,
where
of course,
it must be quite hard given the very basic bread and butter mechanics of WoW.
Yeah.
And the age of the engine and stuff.
Of course.
My overall point basically earlier was just that I think that there's the newer Kiss Curse seasonal affixes they do are they seem way more creative. It seems like there is way more design and stuff like that going into them. And I actually think they are cool. And they're not something that I would advocate removing. They're in fact something I would advocate removing a lot of other things from Mythic Plus so that we could double down on the seasonal affixes, because I just think if you're going to double down on one part of M Plus and you're going to keep the idea of them being a bit different from season to season, double down on that. So yeah, I guess that's what I think. There, I've said what I think. Woo.
Yeah, no, I mean,
maybe it's a load of shite.
Yeah.
Don't respect me when it comes to my opinions in Mythic Plus. Seriously, listen to Cyberslat and Tettles and Dratnos and all those people, because that's maybe that's the more intended target audience, and I'm just some sort of layman who really ultimately kind of just wants a hard dungeon with no funny business and enjoyed Kata at launch a lot.
Yeah, so basically to kind of summarize my point, what I was mostly saying is I think World of Warcraft design, especially affixes and seasonal ones, because the Nihilotha one was fun from this perspective. From the perspective of it, well, for a start, it made that you didn't need a rogue in every group, which is fantastic problem solving in game design, but also that it sort of engaged you with the strategy in ways. You had different ways to approach a dungeon that really felt meaningful and felt new because of this new thematic overhaul. So it was very good from a strategical standpoint. It was it was a great design, but I think that they should maybe put a little bit more focus on how to design less challenges, design less strategic stuff, and try to think more moment to moment in a sense. To say they could be completely doing that and kind of struggling with ideas. It's just from my experience as a player, I kind of feel that the execution of what I'm doing is largely brain dead versus going in with the right strategy. Knowing what to pull is significantly more interesting than actually pulling a mob pack, if you get me.
And then perhaps I think, because as I said earlier, I'm not a big Mythic Pluser, so I don't really have a lot of experiential stuff there. What I would say is I can maybe think about that from the perspective of a raider. And sometimes, for me, it's there's raid bosses that are kind of super complex and stuff. Those are generally not super interesting to me.
Yeah, because there are problems for guilds to solve.
Yeah, the raid bosses that I find interesting are, I wish there was another boss we could talk about instead of Painsmith. But, at least with Painsmith, it's there's just the moment-to-moment experience as a player there. You are looking around you and you're, weaving your way through the thing and... there's the two of you with the chain. You got to go through the hole in the middle at the right time, and I think that's just really cool.
Yeah.
From a very even if it's not the most complex thing, maybe there's a little bit more management in heroic when you've got the traps or whatever.
Yeah.
But the very basics of sort of layout of the fight, I just think it's really quite fun from an individual perspective, to the point where I almost want to see what happens if now. I know it just gets to this thing of sometimes, as you experienced in Iminar?
Iminar, yeah.
Iminar, the whole, my Mythic raiding guild can't play Frogger. But
yeah.
I am honestly a massive, massive fan of just that stuff where it's I don't know, put a bit of Takeshi's Castle in the raid boss.
Yeah, exactly.
I think like that stuff's really fun, and especially when it's tied into the boss room. I mean, take Operator Thogar. I know that for a lot of people that's like not a mega fun fight because if memory serves with Thogar, here's the good thing. Sometimes you don't have the burden of knowledge. For your first few pulls, when you're like, oh, where's the train going to be? What's going to go on? You're like, oh shit, the train's, I'm reacting to a thing and it's cool. And I mean, then, you of course learn that it kind of just all happens in a schedule.
Yeah.
But like, even for me, like the basic fantasy of Operator Thogar was a super cool fight.
Yeah.
Because it was just so, it was so not weak auras.
Yeah,
And that's another thing that I like about the very basics of Paintsmith. It's not a weak auras fight. It's a very much, here you are, you're in the world, look around you. And it's like, oh shit, there's a big row of spikes. I'm going to go in between them. We're going to bait the little, swirlies before we go into the hole. And it's awesome. So that's the thing. It's like the basic, just the movement of my character, the situation that I'm in, rather than the big, as you say, the big strategic challenge, which I think there is room for as well. But maybe some of what we're talking about is how we get more of the big wins at Painsmith. And hopefully, Blizz should have seen that, what is the percentage of World of Warcraft discussion that is just Painsmith? Especially around patch launch.
I imagine a lot of it. Some difficulty-wise, some engagement-wise, but yeah.
So I really hope that, I hope they don't see Painsmith as a wall and think, oh, let's not do that again. I hope they see it as
I'm so afraid of that.
I'm afraid of that, but I really hope they see it as tune it well. Maybe it was a little bit overtuned for normal or something. I don't know if that was really a tuning problem or if it's just players kind of aren't used to those things. But whatever
I think it was a combination of both. Where I think there were tuning issues where damage incoming was really really rough, but also you combine that with players taking a lot more damage from and not being able to stand out of spikes, which, knowing the World of Warcraft player base, is likely quite high because the game doesn't train you in a lot of those mechanics whatsoever. So how are you expected to be equipped to deal with them when they come through?
I mean, I suppose from the Blizzard designer's perspective, they're probably thinking, you're in Zoval's Sanctum of Domination.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of spikes.
Yeah.
I think that's what the raid designer is thinking because it's like, come on, you're a human. The spikes are bad.
Yeah, so for someone who's used to playing a lot of games, just move, yep, this is fun, this is great, fantastic. I mean, so I think it was Savage X in chat said he just described an FF14 boss fight. Because of the train comparison, there's literally a boss fight from Shadowbringers that I'm thinking of that isn't really spoilerific in any sense. I'm just going to explain mechanics. Sure. But there is a bit where trains come and kill you. How do you know where to avoid the trains? You look at the signals on the train, and you look and you go, and this is the incredible thing that I really enjoy about it. It is a signal, so it is green go, red don't go. And the amount of times I've had to really fight my instinct to go, oh, green, that's where I should go. But I go, no, red means no train, don't get hit by the train. The same boss has parts where your facing matters on a rhythm. A very, very clear rhythm. You see things coming down. When they hit the ground, depending on what color it is, you have to face either towards it or away from it. And that is literally something that, you're also keeping up what you're doing DPS-wise, but you're kind of going, oh, well, I'm also handling this little thing that is about controlling your character. So you go, oh, yep, and back to face, and I need to face away. Okay, I'm facing away. Stuff like that that's on a rhythm that's actual character control. That's not which button do I press in terms of my rotation, not how do we organize ourselves as a group for this, but it is very much what you're literally doing at the character, where you're looking, where you're facing. And that's a lot of why I think some of the later FF stuff is so much better than what I think currently exists in World of Warcraft, is because there's so much more to do for the average player when they're playing. They also they actually genuinely have to keep up the two thoughts of, well, I'm doing this, but I'm also paying attention to everything. I'm seeing this. I mean, obviously World of Warcraft has some of it as well, but here's a thing moving my direction. I have to, mentally calculate this is coming in at this rate, so I should move now. I should move later. Stuff like that. That stuff is really, really important to how you literally have fun in a fight. In the same way that, you're playing a video game. In an FPS, pointing and clicking on heads is fun. In a platformer, jumping is fun. I think that that's something that World of Warcraft generally lacks overall as a solid design consideration. Not to say it lacks it entirely, but I think a lot more focus can be made on that. And Painsmith being a fight that's enjoyed by a lot of people and also compared to a specific FF boss kind of tells the tale quite a bit. least I think so, anyway.
Yeah. Yeah,
That
no,
was a
I
health
think
soapbox.
fair enough. And it's like in my head, it's like I kind of want like mechanically simple fights in like the
Yeah.
strategic sense, but that are like super experiential, I guess. And in my head, Painsmith is one of those. I think Painsmith's an extremely simple fight when you really think about it.
Yeah.
But it's just experientially quite strong. And perhaps that's why it's just meshed with people so much. Which, you know what, in a stream that has been characterized by, hey, this is a good change, but grumble, grumble, grumble. At least we can go back to that old chestnut of Painsmith good.